It's making up its mind. Oh, look, we have stuff.
Susie, you're good?
Boy.
Joel Richter. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and thanks everybody for your patience. I've been a patient before, but not in front of this many people. Oh, I'm glad everybody came today. There's all over the place. We got a few more. Oh, Bob's getting some more chairs. So. And if you haven't signed in, I'm going to start my own signage round. We keep track of all sorts of stuff on the Friends of the Railroad, and so if you wouldn't mind signing in.
We've already signed in, can we sign it again?
Well, that's a different one.
Okay.
That's for our group to keep track of who we've explained information to. And it does have a column on there for your name. Oh, okay. It does have your zip code, because we do want to know the general area of the world that you come from. And we've had folks from all over the place ride our trains. Who's ridden one of our Santa trains before? Oh, there's a few people. Good. Okay, let's broaden this. Who's ridden a train before? Oh, well, there you go. There's a few. Good. I'm glad there's some folks here who've been on the rails before. And then there's a spot on the form. I'm getting back to the form now, where you can put, if you want to be contacted about stuff that's coming up. We have monthly meetings, we have weekly work groups, we have all sorts of stuff. So if you're interested in helping out and you're not asleep by the end of the show, then great. We'll have a little more information about it. So, I will stop because there'll be a screen coming up shortly. Well, that says questions. It's a reminder for me to ask, does anybody have any questions? So you won't have to keep it all bottled up until the end. Susie has to be out of here at 3. But that doesn't mean we can stay around to talk a little bit, right, Bob?
We can.
Okay, good. So, this is being broadcast live by BBC Radio. So, I'm sure it's getting out to the world here. So anyway, we'll get started here. So, I think you all came to see about the role of trains and trolleys in Victor. It does say impact. I do not like that word because when you're driving across a railroad crossing and the gates are down and you've gone around the gates, it's going to be a bad impact. So don't do it. And the other part is, if you have kids, grandkids, or yourself like to go walk along the tracks, don't wear your phones because they come up fast, they come up hard, and you'll be flat. So that's my public safety announcement for the day. So we'll talk a little bit about our group. We were formed in 2008, currently have over 100 members, and last year those members donated $13,300, actually $13,353, a lot of time. So an involved group. You can't talk about railroads without talking about transportation history. And it all starts with walking around. I mean, that's what our ancestors did decades, eons, millennia ago. Then we found some other things, but really, in our case here, travel was on foot or water. And the folks that lived here before us, the indigenous, the American Indians, the Americans, actually, the natives, and I'm reading very badly with my words. What's the word, Cheryl? Come on, tell me.
Indigenous.
Indigenous, thank you. See, she talks Trumpsy, so that's good. So, this is all the area around our state where the indigenous people live. And important in the grand scheme of things. We do have a wonderful place up on the hill, Gananagan, which is a very small tribute to the entire group that was here. It's very good that it's there, but, and if you haven't visited, go to it. It's wonderful. Great history, lots of information. The key on this slide is that horses arrived about the 16th century from the Spaniards and the Europeans, well, I guess they're Europeans, who brought them. They were not native to this land. Town of Victor was started about 1812, and it actually, if you look at this grand map, we can zoom in on that little quadrant. It is roughly a square next to Farmington and Mendon. Mendon's kind of an odd shape, but that's okay. In 1825, the Erie Canal helped water travel. And the important thing about the canal was that everybody was bidding on having it come through their town. And unfortunately, it did do a construction boom. This was the area up by the Lockport, where they have that cut that goes for a significant distance, making the keeping the waterway through to the lake. Cities grew. There were more farms because there was more places for agricultural products, food to be able to be shipped. And by the 1855, you can see by the heavier lines here, and over here, and down all along, that the canals grew substantially. The issue with the canal is that it takes a lot of labor and a lot of time. And the Great Embankment, does anybody know where that is? Oh, a few people. Yeah, that's a significant rise of the canal, right between Bushnell's Basin and, in some cases, Fairport, but all the way to Pittsburgh and beyond. And they had to bring the water level up from the valley. And that was a significant accomplishment in 1820 when they started the canal. Okay, here's the first piece. Questions? All right, I'm moving on. See, this is easy now. You know and I know when I'm supposed to ask that question. So in 1835, the Mohawk and Hudson River Railroad was started. And it was a short line, essentially from on the east side of the state. It sort of followed the canal. The state helped fund it, as well as locals helped fund it. And it was only allowed to run in the winter. Anybody guess why it was only allowed to run in the winter?
So it wouldn't compete with the canal.
That's right, so it wouldn't compete with the canal. And plus, the canal was frozen. So, you know, what better way to have things continue to move by rail in that period of time? So it was all about competition at that point. So the important part is that railroads were the first mass transportation system. They actually were faster for trade and travel. They had greater efficiency. Of course, they cost less to build. And they had allowed for better social, I should have put that first, connections and economic. You know, going to see your family or whatever, usually your family lived in the same town, sometimes the same farm, for many, many generations. And so being able to travel to see them now allowed sons, daughters, families to move to other locations for opportunities. So the railroads really made that start to happen. In 1840, the Auburn and Rochester Railroad started up, and it had a locomotive called the Young Lion that arrived by canal to Pittsburgh. It actually arrived at Cartersville. Anybody know where Cartersville was? Where was it?
It was right next to the Great Embankment.
It was. Just east of Pittsburgh, where the railroad used to cross. You can see a little part of a bridge that sits over on the north side of the canal. That's where Cartersville was. They actually had a bridge across the canal for a number of years. And if you're going up Marsh Road heading south from East Rochester, at the traffic light at 31, if you continue to go straight, you would go right up to where Cartersville was, on the dirt road that climbs the hill. And I hope I have that in here. I'll see. The first passenger cars were built after stagecoaches, because that's what they knew. The rails were made out of wood. They figured out wood was not going to last a long time, so they put strap iron on it, and that helped a little. And then they finally decided, after they got a few more railroad cars of this nature, that they had to start using iron and then steel. The village of Victor was incorporated in 1879. What you're seeing on the map was the plan for the village from 1852. Interesting, you see School Street's called South Street, Main Street was called State Street. I can't read that one. Perkins Street, I can finally read that one. And then Railroad Street is now 444. I wonder why it was called Railroad Street. We'll find out in a minute. Andrew Street is now Church Street, and so there were a number of different road names at the time. By the 1870s, the town got the village got larger, and a lot of it was because of the railroad. And on this map, you'll see Main Street, which is now called Main Street, School Street, Maple, Railroad Avenue is still called Railroad Avenue, even though it turned into Maple Avenue. And there is the railroad that came through town in 1840. Right down there. And if you look at the development here, kind of an interesting pattern. If you look at it down at the railroad, it looks very organized. Straight off the railroad line, East Street and Covell Street, is that right? Yeah, Covell Street were built straight off the tracks. So that was an early commuter line. Get on the train and be in Canandaigua in an hour. Okay,
Got a couple of houses.
that changed. Yeah, a couple hours.
People have big lots.
So a lot of local businesses grew, developed, got bigger because of the railroads. Wilcox Lumber, this is in 1870. They did everything lumber. If you look closer, you can see on the side of the building it says tanks and trestles, right there. That's what Wilcox Lumber looked like in 2011. Today it's a flat area behind the house. So kind of interesting to see the comparison between the two.
Where was that?
Where Eastman Savings and Loan is on School Street. Yeah. So they had quite the wood shop, everything connected by belts. And when electricity came around, they had electric motors. Prior to that, they had a generator powered by a motor powered by steam. So they were able to, and that's sawdust in the piles on the floor. They went through a lot of wood in a short period of time. Because they made all sorts of things. Tanks for rail cars. These carried brine or pickles or all sorts of things. They did tanks for buildings. City of New York used to have their water supplies for the buildings on top. And they would pump from down below up into the tanks, and then people, when they needed water, they would use the water from the tank. They made trestles, small ones like this, larger ones like this, the Lehigh Valley in Lima, all made out of wood. They had a coal tower that lasted up until the late 70s, where they brought in coal. Homes were heated by coal. And wood first. So if you look at old pictures from the late 1800s, mid 1800s, when photography started to get popular, you see everything is cleared. Well, one, it was for farming, and two, it was for the wood to heat the homes in the winter. So people shifted from that later and started using coal. A lot less coal was necessary to heat to the same temperature. Of course, Victor Coal Lumber was Victor's oldest continuing business at that time. This was taken in 2012. And they were started up in 1870. And it was nice of Mike Bliss, who was the proprietor, and his family ran the business for years. That's Mike and his daughters, who were helping as they closed up the facility on the last day. It's so sad that things, we toss things out. Or we call it, with a classy name now, we recycle it. A friend of mine, Al Pickering, came one day and he said, you got a choice. You can repair the washer, it's going to be probably $400. Or you can buy a new washer for probably $1,200, and in 3 years you can throw it out. And so I said, Al, what's that do? Well, he said, you can fill the landfills, or you can make this machine work, because it's built real well. The clutch is gone. So we fixed it. Still in the basement, and there it is. Kept it out of the landfill. That's what Victor Coal Lumber looks like today as Eastman Savings and Loan. Okay, another blue screen. Any questions? Boy, I'm answering all your questions. This is good. Well, you can save them up for the next one. So around 1900, this picture was taken of Maple Avenue. You can see a lot more houses down Maple Avenue. This is looking north. Kind of hard to see the Presbyterian Church steeple there. That's right across the street here. Maple Avenue looking north, Presbyterian Church steeple. You can see the hills are clear from trees. It's a little clump here and here. Important to see here in this picture is there's a water tank and looks like some things going on. Also, the road is dirt. There's a railroad crossing that looks pretty busy. They've separated it by one car so that, people can get by with their wagons. There's a produce stand here, another railroad car on this side, several on this side. Lots of activity going on that railroad that's just up the hill. So this is what the Maple Avenue crossing looked like at that time. 2 tracks, a station track here, also served as a yard track, and the main line right here. This shack was manned during the daytime initially, and then it was manned 24/7. And one person that manned that shack, this is that shack with Willie, Yankee Welch. I was going to say Willie, I'm sorry. Yankee Welch, who was the flagman for the crossing. Because they were having accidents and people were dying and everything else, the railroad said, okay, we have to have somebody flag the crossing. Go stand in the middle of the road with a flag, and if you get run over by a horse and wagon, then it's their fault. If you get run over by a train, you're too close to the tracks. So people were employed to do just that. Right, that was before the automatic gates and all of that. Yep. So in 1890, a new station was built up on the top of the hill. If you haven't been up there, take a drive at the traffic light, turn left, and head up Mountain Hill, 444. And you come to a little rise, be a big plant on the right-hand side, houses on the other side. I'm talking about a manufacturing facility. And then just up the hill is a railroad station on the left. One of the last remaining railroad stations intact and in good shape. And so it's always worth a drive-by. So in this particular station, you can see it looks pretty rudimentary, very kind of regular. We've got the crew. This is a station crew and the yard crew out front. And it had semaphores at the time for warning the trains as to what was going on. That station is now this house on Cole Street. And if you look at the front door, it says welcome on the front door. And if you go in, it has doors that say women, and it has doors that says men for the restrooms. And this has been in the Turner family for quite some years. So there's a little bit of history that's left. So in about 1900, this is what the rail yard looked like. There's the station right there. We've got some actually interesting businesses. T.A. Watson, who has New York City on the side of their building. That building is still there, part of it, the lower level. There's Colville Street right there and the rail yard. This is an agricultural building, and part of it was the beginnings of the flour mill that eventually ended up there. 1905, a new station was built. Very progressive. The railroad had some money to spend. Victor was a very populous town. Moving material. This station, the same station that's up there now, has a freight section and a passenger section. So you could bring your freight that you wanted to ship out, just like UPS or REA, Railway Express Agency. Anybody ever heard of that before? They were the precursor to UPS. And the railroads used to carry mail, high-speed mail. They would come down the tracks, throw out a mail bag, and then the closest station master would have to go get it and then sort the mail locally. So you got your mail that way. Same with picking up a bag of mail. They would do an exchange. So in this one, you can see the Watson facility. They got a boxcar, refrigerator car right out front. That was cooled by ice. And the Benson Hotel. And that hotel is no longer there, but it was for people who were driving on the railroad. If you had an early morning train to catch, you could come stay at the hotel, get on the first train that left town, or if you had a late night train to go get home with, you could stay there overnight and then travel during the day. This is back in 1905. Roads were not lit. Roads were swampy, dirty. No, they were all dirt. They could have been, if it rained, really treacherous.
I just see a train right next to it.
That's what the station looked like. It's about 8 years ago. Still intact. Very, very good facility. And kind of a gem that we have in town here. Privately owned. And the person who owns it now is taking very good care of it. This is a company, a pretty big building for the town of Victor. You know, they have, the town and the village have a limit on how many stories you can build up. I think this building was probably the reason for the limit, because now it's 2, 4, 5 stories. Now on the other side, it's only 2, 4 stories, but I think the limit now is 3 stories. And you can see this says Victor Milling right on the side here. Large tank for milling. They brought in all sorts of wheat, corn, anything you could think of you could grow, and then it was shipped out by rail car. They did 60 rail cars a week out of here in the season. There are other places that were doing 50 cars a day with the milling that they were doing at the same time. So it was a very big use of rail. Unfortunately, this building succumbed to a fire in 1937. And so you can see it, $150,000 loss in 1937 was kind of a bigger amount today. They had fire departments from Pittsburgh, from Palmyra, this is the range around us, Canandaigua, that came to Victor. A few of them came by rail. When the city of Rochester had a large fire at the Sibley building in 1904, Syracuse and Buffalo sent fire equipment by rail to the city. And they were there within an hour and a half. So they got stuff right down to the rail yard, put it on flat cars, and just jumped out. So very fast. And then they drafted out of the Genesee River. The building still burned down. Hey, classic story. So that's the building where the flour mill was, called Mickey Finn. Well, now it's kind of empty. I think there's a person going in there trying to make a living, but, so that's what's left for the fire. I used to do inspections for the town and the village, and in the basement of that building, over on this corner here, is all the first brickwork that was used to build the mill. Another company, Powell's Cider Mill. This house still exists, right here. This is at the corner of School Street, right here, and Dryer Road, right here. And there's a kind of a little valley that's all treed now, with a stream that runs through it, and Powell's was right back from the road, probably 150 or 200 feet. And it was a big place. They did almost everything, preserving, like I was talking about before, and they used the tank cars that Wilcox Tank and Trussell built. So to ship their products out of town. So not much left of the facility now, except for these pictures. And I have to thank Wilma Townsend from the town of Victor, who's the assistant historian, who located those for me. We step into what I was talking about before, the plant with a water tower on the top of it, and the person who figured out what to do with electricity as that was being developed, his name was Fred Locke. And he got in trouble working for the railroad, and the story goes that he was a telegrapher. He was supposed to be typing out a message to Canandaigua. He worked in Victor, and then a train had just come through and it was leaving. And so the receiver in Canandaigua said, "Oh, the message never came through. The train just arrived." So he got in trouble. He got written up 4 or 5 times for not having his message come through. And so he figured it out, and what it was the voltage on the telegraph line was going to ground. So he had to develop something to make it work. So he developed an insulator. And so he's called the father of porcelain insulators, and the inventor of wet porcelain insulators. Founded Locke Insulators in 1893. It's right down on Maple Avenue. One of 2 facilities that makes wet porcelain insulators left in the world today. The early years, small place. When you're getting started, you do what you got to do to make the product. So, this is the railroad bed that's up. If you're headed up to look at the station that's up Maple Avenue 444, you'll see that on the west side of 444. There's a larger factory in front of it now. But they did a lot of shipping in barrels. Guess who made the barrels? Wilcox Tank and Trussell. So you see a lot of insulators down here. Some of those are scratched, probably most of them. Some of them are actually packed in the barrels in sawdust and shipped. That's how they got them, between hither and yon. Remember, electricity was not available. It was just beginning. So that company, and there were a few others that jumped on the woodwork. Is that stopped here?
Mhm.
Is there more over there?
I think it started over there.
Oh, did it? Okay.
You got these folks.
Thank you. Oh, well, we want to catch everybody. Thank you.
That one is still in there somewhere.
Could be.
So they were at the cusp of electricity being delivered to your home. And they were figuring it all out, DC or AC. There were arguments all over the place. There was a place in Oregon that started up DC, and they wanted to go to town with it, and issues that were arising. So another company, big company, decided, okay, let's try AC. So they battled it out, and I guess we all have AC now. Except for if you're doing solar, and then you have DC. Converting AC. Anyways, early years. So these are the types of products that they were putting together. One of their displays at a show, and the different types you can see. Oh my goodness, they got some big ones up here, some even larger ones in the back, smaller ones down here, made out of glass or a combination of materials. So a very interesting industry, to say the least. So as production grew, the plant grew. You can see there's an interesting addition from these. Anybody know what those are called? They're called beehive kilns. And there were, I think I counted at one time, 16 or 17 of those. And that's how they heated and cooked the insulators. That's part of the process. They have to be baked to achieve their electrical insulation capabilities. A couple of water towers here. You'll notice that this building here is made out of concrete. They had a significant fire that burned a lot of the original plant down. And so being a believer in fire sprinklers, when they rebuilt, they built the water supplies to keep the plant from burning down again. A few of the folks who worked at the insulator, these are father and son employees in 1938. And I talked to a fellow by the name of Roger Brooks. Great guy. Lived in Victor for a long time, went to school here and whatever. And his grandfather and his great-grandfather, right here and right here, worked at the plant. And you know, families did that, you know. I mean, it was a local plant, easy to get to. You didn't have to drive far, you didn't have to wait in traffic. You could walk down the sidewalk. All sorts of positives about working locally. And this is probably their claim to fame, is the coffee cups. Anybody ever seen a Victor mug? Ooh, well, I should have brought some. They were put together during World War II. There was a contract that was let out by the U.S. Navy. There was the coffee cups at the time. When the ship went like this, and then one like this, they would slide right off the countertop. So, figuring it out how to make a good mug that wouldn't slide off the countertop. I bet you they had a lot of moving tables at the insulator at that time. But they put together mugs, fired them on site, and then stamped it with an imprint. And it says Victor on the bottom. So go home and check all your mugs. But they kind of have to look like these type. Now there's other material that with ashtrays and serving bowls and all sorts of stuff that were made that are stamped Victor as well. So if you come across one, put it in your jacket and walk out. No, tell them about it. You know, it used to be the staple of a diner, you know, because they just get the surplus mugs from the military, or, you know, people would just bring them or whatever. And so they would have, you know, 100 of Victor mugs. And so, you know, they always have to check to make sure somebody wasn't walking out with the good mug. The good thing is that they hold the heat for a long time because they're made out of porcelain. So here folks are putting together, the mugs were actually formed on a machine, and then individual people put the handles on. And then it was all fired. Got the stamp. Today, well, jump right by. Let's go back, see if I can pause this. Today, insulators are made here and have global impact. They're shipped around the world. Anything electric that's big, that's being developed. Wait a minute, we got a green thing going on here now, out around the world? Places around the world don't have electricity yet. Well, Victor Insulators is one of the manufacturers and suppliers of equipment They do transmission, they do substation, and they do distribution. This is from their website, so you can go to victorinsulators.com and you can see what they have. Amazing stuff. Oh, there we go. But, oh, wait, I gotta go back. So it's a top 100 company in both 23 and 24. That's what the facility looks like. If you're going out towards the station up on the hill, just take a look as you drive by. And if you're interested, you know anybody who wants a job in a factory, hey, send them down. Okay, questions? Oh,
The Victor Milling Company burned, and then the building that eventually became Mickey Finn's was built. Was it a restaurant back then?
yes, Mickey Finn's was a restaurant. Yeah.
It started, the people bought the burned out area and made a restaurant that was right there?
Yeah, what was left of the building,
Okay,
they, reconstructed the structure,
right.
put a roof on it.
Oh, cool.
And, oh yeah, so it has a lot of character.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll be back in the business as a restaurant one day soon. Yes, sir.
That round part of Mickey Finn's, is that part of the flour mill?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It was a container for what the product was that they had milled. So they ran as it was actually prior to being milled, it was in that container. So they drop off the raw product, and then it would all get milled and put right into boxcars. So, yes, ma'am.
The original Mohawk and Hudson Railroad, the line that it was on, is that the one that's now a walking trail through Victor? Is that the same route?
Question. The Auburn and Rochester is the hiking trail in Victor. That's correct.
That's a different
It's now
railroad.
called, it was called the New York Central Auburn Line,
Oh,
okay?
okay.
The original name of it was the Auburn and Rochester Railroad.
Oh.
Yes. And just take up on a little bit on that, the towns used to vie and buy stock in the railroad company. And so Charlie Fisher, I'll call him Charles just because I have to, in Fisher's, said, I'll bring a railroad station, I'll supply you with wood, I will do whatever you need, gravel, and multi-purpose. I'll give you the land. And so the railroad came through Fisher's on its way to Victor. So, great history over in that section of town. Thanks for those questions. It's great. So Victor has a couple of other things. A gypsum mill. We have surface gypsum. There's a housing development built on the top of it now. So, if folks have leaky basements or whatever, just think about gypsum. That was mine. Anyway, so Plaster Mill, this is on the corner of Brownsville and Plaster Mill Road. There's a stemming stack, that exists there. Not much left. It was a big building, and they dried the limestone and the plaster that was dug, and then shipped it out. Victor had a bigger gypsum mine, and this was an underground mine, not a surface mine. This is the circular from 1937 that talks about the mine in Victor. It's available online if you ever want to hunt it out. The mine was pretty significant. And I'll show you a picture. Hold on. I can put a picture. It's kind of out of order. This is what the mine head looked like. Had a pressure, and the material came up the shaft, was poured into what was a processing facility, was processed, and then put out into rail cars. They put out 20 rail cars a day. It's not a small operation, because people were building houses. And so it was turned into plasterboard, it was slapped on walls with lath and plaster, all sorts of stuff. So let me go back here. So I gotta go back. So look at the footprint of that. If it's 100 feet from here to here, that little dot is 100 feet. That little dot is 100 feet. So you multiply that out to here, we're probably standing on the mine. Wait, you feel that? It was 120 feet down, had 10-foot ceilings, so it was pretty high in terms of mines. Coal mines were a little shallower. Had about 100 people working there during the day. Again, this is the processing. This is not that mine, but what a mine for gypsum looks like. Small little railroad inside. They had steam pumps that were initially used to keep the water out because it was below the water line. There's a creek that flows right over the top of it. So they ran this little rail line to bring material from where they mined it back to the shaft and lift it out. So an interesting, that mine, by the way, before I jump to the next one, is filled with water now because the pump stopped. So, want to go scuba diving? I don't know if it'd be safe enough to do that. So the Fisher's Pump House, this is a picture from 1958 when the railroad was still going by. The New York Central line, which was the Auburn and Rochester, was bought by the New York Central in 1853. This is that pump house in Fishers. This was a rail fan trip that stopped in Fishers. That's what the pump house looks like today. Fortunately, the town of Victor has taken over the maintenance of it and the repair of it. Had to have a lot of the cobblestone repointed, had to have a roof put on it. The most interesting thing about this is it's 2 floors. There's a ladder that you climb up on the inside, and upstairs was a water tank. When the locomotives were small, they could store the water upstairs, and then gravity feed it into the locomotives. In the bottom, there was a creek. Parts of it are still there. They used to feed a mill pond where a sawmill was, and the creek had a water-powered motor in it to pump water into the water tank on the 2nd floor. Yes. Yeah, no steam, no nothing where you need, just water flowing through there. So the best part of the story is the railroad, because they needed to put a dam upstream, and so they could divert as much or as little water as they needed to keep the railroad running. And then, you know, people who fished in the stream or whatever would get kind of angry when it was dry. And so there were some issues, but the railroad kept going, so.
Where's that located?
Main Street Fishers. So if you go out Route 96.
Right next to the firehouse.
You're right next to the firehouse in Main Street Fishers. If you go out Route 96, just before the thruway, there's a traffic light. If you're heading in towards the city, turn left there, go about 1.5 miles down the road, it's down in a little hamlet on the left-hand side. You'll see a firehouse right there, and it's right there, right behind it. And it's part of the hiking trail, right, goes right by it. In fact, that's the hiking trail. This is a view from the road, so. Built in 1845, according to the information at hand, it's the 2nd oldest railroad building in the United States. After the station in Ellicottville. State is that in? Maryland, thank you. See? It's a good thing, I'm just checking. And so this one was saved by a fellow by the name of Sheldon Fisher. Great historian. And I wish he was alive today. But in 1938, he met with Edward Hungerford, who was the vice president for the New York Central Railroad. They wanted to tear it down. And so he said, well, why don't we keep it? And so it was given to the town. They decided not to tear it down. And so it exists today. So Sheldon was very good for history. Lehigh Valley Railroad came through in 1891, 1892, I think service started. And they actually, I read a thing yesterday where they were starting to do construction on the line in 1890 and take a couple of houses out that used to exist where this picture was taken. This is from the crossing right here on Maple Avenue, the first set of tracks that you come to. And it's now operated, well, it's in limbo from Finger Lakes Railroad at this time. But good-sized station with a quarters upstairs where you could live, and a two-track main line. This is the Black Diamond coming through. And of course, kids who were interested in listening to it thunder by. That's a view the other direction. The station is over here on the right. This is looking eastbound. There's a little sign here that says Victor, and a watchtower. I'd love to reconstruct that watchtower. Might be an interesting project, to say the least. That existed apparently even after the watchtower is where a person could stand, sit, whatever, watch for trains down the track, and then climb down and lower the gates or stand in the middle of the road with a flag. So this existed even after automatic signals and gates were put in. So this had to be the early to mid 60s. And in this is a shot from 1960, and you can see the watchman's towers on the ground now. But you know, this is taken from a locomotive on the Lehigh Valley. It was a film, so I grabbed a screenshot of it, and coming right through on Maple Avenue. Of course, that sign I pointed to is made out of rocks and put there for two reasons. One, when you came through town at 60 miles an hour on the Black Diamond, you could tell what town you were speeding past. And for, at that time, airplanes. Because they didn't know where things were, they had no radar, they had no, nothing. So they would look down and follow the railroad tracks. So if you looked at Victor, you could see that you were in Victor. There was a sign in Fishers on the side of a hill that Sheldon put up to mark for the airplanes when they flew by. The hill was a lot cleaner than it is now. To identify it, since Victor had one, Fishers had to have one. And of course, the most important thing that's along in the village is the Black Diamond. And thanks to Joe Lopez, who's here today, he's taking care of the building and making sure it's still a great place to show up, have a good time, eat some good wings, great pizza, other food, have a little libation. That's the Black Diamond about 5 years ago. Wait a minute, there's a train in that picture. What's it doing? Oh, another train. You know that, if you've been watching, that gabled barn in the back has appeared in many pictures over the years. And now it occupies some retail shops, but it's still being used. What's that?
Sugar Mills Hair Salon.
Ah, there you go. See, there's an active participant. So they've just gotten done doing a delivery up to the Victor Insulator on the siding, and now they're headed back down back to the shop, the yard. Another company that took rail delivery on the west side of town, this is just the other side of Route 251, was Iron City Sash and Door, and they were a window and door distributor. Were in town for probably 15 or 20 years. They actually built this building. Now it's e-waste on Route 251. So. Rochester and Easton Rapid Railway was in town actually about 1903 until about 1930. And I know you're going to head out in about a few minutes, so there you go. That's okay, I can keep going. So, and they went till about 1930. The building right there, the station still exists. So if you're headed out to look at the station up the hill, it'll be on your left-hand side pretty soon after you go over the first set of tracks. And now it's part of the Ontario County Assistance Group. That's what it looks like today. An interesting fact about the Rochester and Eastern company in Rochester called General Railway Signal. They're now part of Alstom, which is making the high-speed rail cars down in Hornell and in that area of the country, which will get us into about a third or a half of what Europe is currently doing with high-speed rail. I just read yesterday the Chinese are developing a maglev train that goes 1,000 kilometers an hour. And it is, from their tests, very safe. It's in a closed tube, so there's no crossings. Just don't sneeze. But it'll get between two places. There was some enormous figure, and they were going to be able to do it in like 29 minutes at 1,000 kilometers an hour. So
Approaching the
things-
speed of sound.
What's that?
That's almost the speed of sound,
Almost.
600 miles an hour.
Yeah. So General Railway Signal invented signals and produced signals for railroads. So you'll see, those are the old style, but they use this railroad here in Victor, the one between Rochester, Canandaigua, and Geneva, as a test. It's relatively short, about 45, 50 miles long, and easy to put together right near the company offices. So why not do a straightforward test of the system? And they had a few things they had to work out, but the best part was they got it working, and it still works today. So in this case, you're looking westbound from the building we just saw. The amazing thing is there's a little car right here that belongs to the photographer, and look over here, and he tried to hide it. It's okay. So this is what School Street crossing of the Rochester and Eastern looked like in 1917. Kind of dirt, a lot of dirt, a lot of mud. I think it's kind of in maybe March. Could be June, I don't know. But no flagment, and with an electric car nowadays, think about an electric trolley. They didn't have a bell, and they would ring that, and they did have a whistle. So you'd have some warning. Watch these houses right here. 3 houses almost exactly alike. And there's 3 houses almost exactly alike.
I thought about them the other day.
So those were the first commuter development in Victor, New York. Besides Scoville Street, which was big. There's a big building